Right, folks. Well, welcome to the next installment of the Power Performance webinar series, which is a co-sponsored project between CAMP, the California Association of Mortgage Professionals, NAM, the Association of Mortgage Professionals, and the Maximum Acceleration Coaching Company. We'll be joining me. I'm being joined today by Mr. Eric Mitchell, who's become a great friend over the years, a longtime client. We've worked together, I guess, Eric, we worked together for several years back in '06 and '07. Mr. Eric Mitchell comes highly recommended as one of the best guys in the industry at really clearing through and identifying ways to make significant impact in your community and to be able to really separate. The focus of today's program is really focusing on the keys to power positioning. What is a value proposition? And more specifically, as we grow towards a purchase market environment, one of the things we all have to think about as we're trying to grow our businesses, which is the intent of this entire series, is recognizing that, think about it from this perspective. What would your pipeline look like if interest rates jumped to 5.5 tomorrow? I asked that question on a webinar we did last week, and we gave them basically 4 choices: great, good, okay, or scary. And about 60% of the audience said pretty scary. The whole point of what we're trying to talk about today is really how to position yourself effectively to find and capture purchase business in a tightening market. Now think about it from this perspective, though. What do you have to do to generate purchase business? That means you're going to need to market to the people who know the buyers who you can work with, people who can benefit from the concept of buying a home. Now, in the previous month's program of this event, we talked about this whole concept of finding a need and finding a lead. When it comes to prospecting or identifying leads that you need for purchase business and growing your purchase business, a lot of times that means you're sifting through thousands of tons of rock to filter it down to the nuggets of gold, just like we do in a mining environment. So really finding the people who can really benefit from buying a home in the current market and how to position yourself as the best resource for that. A lot of that means you're going to be collaborating and working with business development partners like realtors. So our goal today with this program, and you will walk away from this program with several important keys and strategies for how to position yourself as the best resource to work with those realtors to generate and find more buyers. And today's guest speaker is Mr. Eric Mitchell, who's going to be joining me shortly, and I'll be introducing him in just a second. There were a couple of key things that I wanted to share with all of you before we jump into it. So first thing we got to identify when we go into finding who needs or who can benefit from the current market environment and who can buy a home, we want to begin to think about life events. We want to talk about the people that are in position to capture and benefit from this incredible housing opportunity that we're in the middle of right now. When you talk about the purchase power that somebody has with these incredibly low interest rates and with the fact that property values are just now, the markets are starting to heat up, that window is going to slam pretty quick. So our ability to reach out and in a massive way be able to leverage hundreds of people and get in front of hundreds of people who really do truly have an opportunity to benefit now, but might not if interest rates climbed up a point and a half and property values accelerated another 5 to 10%. And that's what today is going to be all about. So as we work forward in this, I'm going to go ahead and jump into a couple of key concepts and ideas that really get into this whole idea of value. At the end of the day, we've got to drill down to what it really comes down to talk about value propositions and what is a value proposition. Now, I use the analogy of an artichoke. When I was a kid, this was one of my favorite foods. This was the special meal I always asked my mom to cook, for a special event or birthday or something like that. The challenge with the artichoke is that it was kind of this, and you guys in California are probably pretty familiar with these things. They've got these little spiky, thorny things on them. They're actually a weed, in all honesty. But as you dig deeper and deeper into the artichoke, you get the little morsel of taste of bite of the meat on the outside of the leaf. You have to scrape it off on your teeth. And then as you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, you get less and less and less meat. And then you get to all this fuzzy, these paper-thin leaves that are purple that are really pretty much worthless. And then even worse, you get to this hairy stuff, this choke. And if you don't handle that carefully, it makes a mess, and you ruin the best part of the artichoke. But when you really get down to it, you get to the heart of the artichoke, and that's where the best food is. That's where the best bites are. And so what we have to do is begin to filter down and cut through all the noise and the confusion and the chaos and all the difficult stuff. And that's a lot like what we have to do in the mortgage business to really identify and position ourselves effectively so that we truly are being heard and that people really truly understand at our very first point of contact why we are the best resource to help them. And then how do we capitalize on that and take it to a whole other level. So what we're going to be really talking about today throughout the course of today's webinar is how do you stand out? How do you separate yourself and make the rest of the competition irrelevant? Because what you're offering is of such significant value that everybody else is playing a completely different game and a game much less valuable to them as a consumer and much less benefit to what they receive. So at this point, I'm going to kind of introduce Mr. Eric Mitchell. By the way, for those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet Eric yet, I encourage you to reach out to him and talk to him and get to know him a little bit better. I don't know, Eric, when you and I first met, I think it was probably, do you remember being at, what was it, Kay's house in Minnesota back in 2000 or 2004? We were watching the election returns in that workshop we first met at. Yeah. Over the years, he and I have become really good friends. I got to tell you guys, this is one of the sharpest guys in the business, very good at recognizing, capturing, and leveraging key opportunities. You know, a record-breaking producer. Your team did, what, 33, 34 loans last month?
That's
something
right.
Like that,
yeah.
Eric?
Yeah, no, and times are very good for us right now in Southern California, and we're feeling very blessed these days. And yeah, back in the Minnesota days, I've been in California now since 2007. I can't believe it's been that long already. But yeah, you and I, it's coming up on 10 years that we've been friends.
I know. It's been a wonderful and joyful ride. And guys, part of the reason I invited Eric to join us is I don't know anybody better in the business about really cutting through the noise and clarifying exactly what it means to create true power value proposition. So the first point of the conversation today is really what is a unique value proposition. So Eric, do you mind sharing your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the slide really spells it out, you know, all caps underlining the word unique. And the word unique is where most people miss it. They start talking about what they hear other people saying because they haven't figured out what is unique about what they do. And they start talking about, well, I give great service, and I've got low rates, and, you know, I'm always accessible, and, you know, I'm really committed to my clients, and I'm committed to your success. And nobody's listening to you when you're saying any of that. It's like if you're a loan officer and your title rep comes in and says, you know, I've got really low title costs, and I've got great service, and I'm always accessible. And I mean, are you listening to the title rep as they're saying that stuff to you? I know I'm sure not. Now, if a title rep comes into me and says, well, you know, I've got this real estate office that I do business with, and they're looking for a new loan officer, and I'd love to introduce you. You tell me now as a loan officer you aren't listening to that title rep, right? Like that's a unique value proposition for a title rep to a loan officer. So what is your unique value proposition you're bringing to your realtors so that you're not talking about rate or service, and it's got to be incredibly valuable to them? And that's what we're going to talk about today is how do you separate yourself in the minds of realtors so that you are the only option in the marketplace, not just an option in the marketplace.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's a key concept, and you know, Eric, you introduced me to another person who's become a great friend of mine, Renee Rodriguez, and one of the things I learned from Renee, which I'm sure you've experienced this as well, is that, you know, value is really kind of a vague concept. It's really somewhat difficult to define. Value, the way Renee expressed it to me, which made a lot of sense, is value equals benefit minus cost. Think about it like a mathematical equation. Now, there's two ways to raise our value in our perception. One is to lower our, lower our cost. The other is to raise a benefit. So what we're going to be talking about today, and Eric, I'm going to ask you to dig into and give massive value to the people who are attending today's program, is how do we create that value proposition? How do we create that thing that's worth not just one transaction or not just worth a couple $1,000s in commission to an agent, but how do we really position ourselves as a true business development partner with the folks that are in the community and with the realtors so that we're helping them do tens of additional transactions a year, in some cases maybe even hundreds, and literally generating tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional revenue that otherwise they would not be able to generate. So the next question that really kind of comes into play is, how do you create that unique value proposition? What you articulate, how you communicate, what it is that we do or that you do as an originator that's so unique and so overwhelmingly valuable that you become that only choice.
Yeah, so this next screen talks about, creating a unique value proposition, and this is kind of a step-by-step process that I go through in my mind, and I function a little bit differently than most people I've met in that I'm always in a very linear methodology, meaning I got to deal with step 1, then step 2, then step 3, then step 4, whereas I find that a lot of salespeople they think more in an abstract mode, and they bounce around a lot, and you don't get to a final conclusion that way, has been my experience. So, forgive me if I sound linear, but step 1 is, what is your target demographic, and what is their need, right? So if our target demographic is realtors, right, so that's our target demographic, what do they need? Well, in California, and I know there's some people on this call that are in other states other than California, but for the sake of this discussion, in Southern California, where I'm located, one of the biggest needs that realtors have right now is inventory. There's no inventory. I mean, anytime you're trying to make an offer on a property, there's 50 offers on every single listing, anything coming on the market. And so there's a large frustration in our marketplace with buyer's agents because they just can't, they're writing 16 offers to get considered for one. Okay, so they need inventory. So number 2 is, what can I do to satisfy that need? Well, I can't list with all my agents, a whole bunch of real estate, so that doesn't help. So there's got to be a mechanism for me to be able to help agents get inventory that they don't know they can get. There's got to be a mechanism that I'm not currently aware of, but if there was a way to help my agents get inventory, that by getting that inventory, I'm creating such massive value for them that the thought of using any other loan officer or any other lending team is just inconceivable. So what can I do? Go ahead.
I was going to jump in with that point. By the way, one key thing that I just heard you say, Eric, is the concept of what can I do if. I may not know how, but you asked that critical question about, I don't necessarily know how to do it, but I'm willing to ask the question. And one of the key values that creates for the agents is that you become the brainstorming partner, the masterminding buddy, the resource to bounce ideas off of that helps them overcome some of those limiting thoughts or beliefs by asking that question. Okay, so how do we go about this? So you start shifting into solutions mode. That's a critical point that I think I wanted to just reinforce real quick.
Yeah, thank you. I find that most salespeople, again, they go into a mindset of, well, if something existed, then I would already, because there are no secrets in the mortgage industry. Everybody, it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA. That's it. Okay, stuck. You're not solving problems. If you change the questions that you're asking of yourself, your brain will shift into problem-solving mode. So, yeah. So how do I do this? So number 3, how do I do this uniquely? So what could I do to create value for agents to get inventory in a unique way, in a massive way? And so my brain went into, well, what if I could create unique financing vehicles, unique products that were specific to my agents, allowed them to go out and get inventory based on financing vehicles that aren't common in the marketplace. Okay, so how would I do that? Well, I need to start diving into the guidelines. I need to start reading guidelines more. I need to go through portfolio products. I need to look for idiosyncrasies in the Fannie Mae versus Freddie Mac guidelines versus FHA guidelines versus VA guidelines. where are the differences between all the different sets of guidelines? And as I'm saying this, I'm sure there's some loan officers on the call going, oh my God, is he going to tell us to read the Fannie Mae guidelines? Well, a little bit, but no, I don't need you to read the Fannie Mae guidelines from this. I've already done it, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I discovered in the process of doing that. But yes, you should read the guidelines. You should absolutely be an expert at knowing what we do for a living, and that is, in and of itself is a unique value proposition because most loan officers have not read the guidelines. So moving on to number 4, how do I communicate it effectively? So number 3 is solve the problem. Number 4 is, okay, I've got the solution. Now how do I communicate it effectively? I've got to create a marketing message that is effective at communicating what I'm doing or what I've discovered to agents in such a way that they understand it. Just because I understand it, just because I understand the value that is in this solution doesn't mean that they're going to. So I've got to create a messaging that is very easy and simple for agents to understand what's in it for them. If you start going into, well, the Fannie Mae guidelines say you've lost the room. They're done. You've got to show what's in it for them. WIIFM, what's in it for me. Number 5, what is your commitment objective? Okay, so if I've solved this problem, I've created all this value, and now I'm communicating it effectively, what am I asking for? What do I want in return? Like, why am I doing this? Like, you've got to be clear as to what you're asking for in return. So if I'm going to help you as an agent get inventory, and if I'm going to create specialized mechanisms that you're going to be able to use to drive this inventory, I am your loan officer, yes? And they say, well, my brother's a loan officer too, but I'll give you some of the inventory. And you'd be shocked. I know I'm shocked every time I hear an agent say that. It's like, so wait a second, so I'm going to bring you inventory, I'm going to bring you strategy to get inventory, and you're going to give me some of the mortgages? How about no, with a little dash of no. And so you've also got to be selective, looking at Eric's screens a little while ago where you're mining for those nuggets. It's the same thing with realtors. You're not here to help all realtors. I mean, that can't be the goal. You can't do it. You're setting yourself up for failure. What you're looking for is top producing agent teams that have an understanding of value that will be loyal based on you bringing that value. And that commitment objective needs to be clear and non-negotiable because you're creating value, not because you feel entitled. Right? And then number 6, how do you market this on a larger scale? How do you get this message out to enough agents so that you're not in front of 3 to choose 1. You're in front of 300 to choose 10. Right? So how do you take this to a completely different level? And if you can do those 6 things, then you create a team. You create a mechanism to build your business on a much larger scale. And it all comes from a place of, at the end of the day, you're creating value.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Eric, you put together and you showed me some stuff when we were preparing for this webinar that just blew me away. You showed me some of the very specific ways in which you've done this. I know you've got some slides coming up here. Why don't you go ahead and jump into going ahead and talking a little bit about some of the unique things that you've created and how you've positioned them effectively to do a lot of what you were talking about here, which is helping your agents and helping your borrowers.
Yeah, so here's a screen that this is one of my favorites, and this one isn't specifically about inventory. This is a buyer mechanism. So if you look at normal FHA financing, FHA, the mortgage insurance on FHA has become more and more expensive. It keeps going up and up and up. And so it's not
permanent.
What's that?
Oh, I was saying the FHA guidelines that go into effect in early June, where in effect the MI becomes permanent. As long as the loan exists, it's going to have MI, period.
Yeah, and so FHA, is not the FHA that was 5 years ago. It's changed, and the mortgage insurance is more expensive. And yeah, it's got expanded guidelines, and some people need FHA, and I'm not discounting the value of FHA, but sometimes there's better alternatives, and trying to help people understand that. So one of the things that we did is we created an 80-10-10 product. So we're able to do an 80% first plus a 10% HELOC for a 90% combined loan to value to avoid mortgage insurance. And that sounds great, but the interest rate on the second is 5.25 versus 3. So I created this chart to help people understand, help buyers understand mathematically. Here's how they break down. So the first column is FHA, how it breaks down to a monthly payment. The second column is with deferred monthly borrower-paid mortgage insurance. The third column is with non-refundable single lender-paid mortgage insurance. Then you've got non-refundable single borrower-paid mortgage insurance. And then the last column is the 80-10, 80% first, 10% second. And when you look at that and look at the payment, the orange line, right, you're going from a $19.84 per month all the way down to $16.56 per month, a savings of $327.19. And that's great, except where the value proposition is that we're one of a very small handful of lenders in Southern California that will even do an 80-10. So when I distribute this and they go to their Bank of America loan officer and they go to their Wells Fargo loan officer and they go to their Prospect Mortgage loan officer, and those loan officers are all saying, well, I can't do column 5, right? Well, that makes them irrelevant because I can. And so they're coming to me because of that. And so this is a great tool for us to be able to put in front of realtors as to just one simple little easy strategy to create value for their borrowers. And the borrowers love it because now they don't have to think. It's very clear. There's no hidden agenda. It's like very simple math to be able to do. So this is a great marketing tool.
Awesome. I'm going to jump in here and mention one other thing that I saw in this, by the way, guys. Okay, so you're at a lender, you're not in Southern California, you're not with Priority Financial or whatever, you don't have the 80-10-10. Okay, so if you're in a market that doesn't have to compete with Eric, you can actually go out in the marketplace and you could actually look at this non-refundable single borrower paid MI. If you've got a well-qualified borrower, cost of upfront MI is really pretty cheap right now. And so a single premium MI loan, instead of a borrower paid or a traditional lender paid mortgage insurance where they basically jack up the rate to replace the MI cost, putting it into where you could even put this into a seller paid borrower situation, although that doesn't necessarily work in high index, highly competitive markets. But so what? Your borrower pays an extra 1.8% to buy out the mortgage insurance for life. How many tens of thousands of dollars does that save the borrower over a 10-year period to pay a 1.81% one-time premium to get rid of MI for the life of the loan? And you could position that as, and you could take that concept one step further. And okay, so yeah, if Mr. Customer, you could go down the street and you could find somebody, other loan officer out there, who's willing to do the loan a couple $100 cheaper. Practical reality is the way that I look at things is if I'm different enough and I'm suggesting ideas and strategies, the value of my advice, is it worth paying a couple $100 more for the kind of advice that's going to put an extra $17,000 after 5 years on your bottom line net worth? Now, everybody else is irrelevant again, and I'm the only lender that borrower should consider working with, right?
Absolutely, and if you don't have access to an 80-10-10 product, then just remove the 5th column. And by the way, I'm going to say this to anybody on this call. If you guys want to email me or call me, I'm happy to provide copies of any of these marketing materials to anybody that wants to email me or call me after the call. Happy to provide it. There's no secret sauce or there's nothing proprietary. I'm happy to provide copies of anything that anybody asks for after the call.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to let you kind of take over again. I'm sorry, I jumped in and started highlighting some things as you were talking. Let me get this flipped back to where you can go ahead and advance the slides. All right, there you go, Eric. Keep it rolling.
Great. Okay, let's take a look here. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so here's a flyer that I created based on 97% condo financing. So when you look at this flyer, here's how most agents look at this flyer. They look at it and say, oh, so you can help my buyers who don't have down payment get into a condo that's not HUD approved. Yes, and you can help my buyers who want to buy a condo in a non-warrantable building. You can do 80% in non-warrantable buildings. It's like, yes, we can. Well, that's great for my buyers. And so then I say, well, wait a second. Let's look at this from an inventory standpoint. That's great to think about your buyers, but that's going to get you 1 or 2 deals. But how many buildings in your market, how many condo buildings in your market are not HUD approved? And when they're not HUD approved, they can't accept FHA financing offers. So by not being able to accept FHA financing offers, they're limiting the amount of buyers that can make offers on their units in their building. Therefore, they're limiting the value of the units in their building. So if you open up a building to 97% financing, what happens to the amount of offers that come in on the listings, and thereby what happens to the property values? So instead of looking at this as a buyer strategy, look at it as a listing strategy. And can you go to an association of a condo building that's not HUD approved and pitch to their association that you should be the preferred listing agent for that entire building, and here's why. I have access to 97% financing in this building. Other agents do not have access to that, and because I've got access to that, I'm going to put that on the public comment section in the multiple listing service. 97% financing available for this unit. Please submit offers. I'm going to get 50 offers on this condo, and because of that, the property values are going to go up in this building overnight if you use me as your preferred listing agent. And is every condo building going to accept that? Probably not. Are some condo buildings going to jump at that? Absolutely they are, and they do. We've got agents doing them right now. They're already out there. So it's a value proposition certainly from a buyer side, but it's a monster value proposition from a getting inventory side. We'll go to the next screen. I'll show you the next. Here we go. So mortgages after a short sale. So guess what I found in one of the guidelines? I am able to do a mortgage for somebody, and this is not, FHA allows you to do this, by the way, but you have to move outside of your trade area. You have to move, I think it's 30 miles away from wherever you're short selling your house. Well, I found guidelines that allow me to do this, and they can buy the house down the street. You can sell your house on a short sale today, don't default, keep making your payments during the short sale period, and then you can buy the house down the street for, get out from being underwater right now. And so what we're showing our listing agents is when you do a listing for a short sale, you are free to the homeowner because it's the lender that's paying your commission, right? And when you represent that homeowner to buy their next house, your commission's being paid by the seller on the next house. So you're double-ending a client by doing this, and you're free. Your listing commission is paid by the lender, and your buy commission is being paid by the seller on the next property. You're getting your clients out from being underwater. They're not trashing their credit. They keep the kids in the same school district, and their balance sheet gets back to zero now instead of 5 or 10 years from now. And they're able to target, developments. If you look at a new residential development that was built in 2005, 2006, 2007, almost everybody in that development is going to be underwater. You can list an entire development. It's just an unbelievably fun strategy to be working on with agents right now. So there's another example of using a product and guidelines to create value. Next one, stated income loans. So we found a couple of investors that are allowing us to do stated income loans again. It requires bigger down payment, and it requires a lot more stringent criteria, but we're still able to do mortgages with no tax returns, no W-2s, no 1099s, no 1s, no pay stubs, and so we're able to, using as an example, if you've got a client that has a free and clear investment property, you can do a 50% cash out on that property and go buy another investment property. Well, most real estate investors have no idea that they can do that, and so when an agent comes to them, I've got access to this, but I want to be your exclusive agent, and then I'll introduce you to the lender. They're signing exclusive contracts with these investors simply based on this one product. So it's another fun example of being able to create value for agents just by creating a new understanding of products that exist in the marketplace that are just a little outside the box.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I mean, okay. So here's the thing. And I'm going to actually. Well, we'll get to this slide in just a second, but I'm going to leave it up here. The couple of things I've heard so far in this program is, Eric, you talked about all of the different ways in which you create a value proposition. You've given us some great, solid examples of how you're using unique features of a loan to create a unique value proposition. You're also using unique loan programs to create a unique value proposition. the whole concept, guys, is take what you've got and turn it into something that positions, the key benefit, the what's in it for them first. That's got to be your opening message, or they won't hear anything else until you connect with them at what they care about and what's important to them. Second element of that is how you actually articulate that benefit and communicate those ideas to the target audience to help them realize how it could be wildly valuable to them. So all of these strategies now, you've looked at a specific step-by-step process, a linear process on how to create a unique value proposition. Now let's talk a little bit more about what we can do with a unique value proposition that creates results on a massive scale. And one of the things we talk about is leverage, right? Well, the term leverage in business comes from a simple machine called a lever. And I'm not sure exactly what happened to my first slide here. We have a missing slide. But anyway, so if this pivot point is, there's two parts to a lever, okay? Normally, if that pivot point's right in the middle, you have a balance of forces, right? I can push down with 100 pounds of force on one side. I only get 100 pounds of lift. I'm not using the tool properly, so I'm not getting much of a result. The cool thing about it is, though, if I just shift that pivot point a couple feet to one side, all of a sudden the same amount of effort gets me 10 times the results. I can push down with 100 pounds of force on one side, and I get 1,000 pounds of lift on the other. Now, Eric, I got to tell you, and I'm going to tell a story that you might be mad at me for. To my recollection, your record biggest month ever was 74 or 75 closed loans, right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay. Now, what amazed me, and one of the reasons I invited Eric onto today's call to join us and share some of the ideas, is the massive leverage you created in how you did those 74 loans. What you guys don't realize, we can get into the details of that a little bit later maybe, but you did it with one presentation and took, what was it, like 116 loan applications in one night?
Yeah, that was a really fun night. Yeah, we took 110, it was actually 110 loan applications in one night from one presentation. Yeah, it was a really fun night.
Well, for those of you who want to reach out to Eric and get the full story on that one, I'll leave it up to him whether he wants to share a little more detail how he did it. But what it came down to is Eric is a master at creating massive leverage. And so now what we want to talk about is how you create massive leverage once you've established a solid value proposition and the ability to communicate it. What do you do with it?
So, can you pop to the next screen? Lever. Yep. There we go. So how do you leverage a unique value proposition? So certainly number one, target producers only. And we've all heard of the 80-20 rule, number 3, but actually in real estate it's more like the 95-5 rule. 5% of realtors are doing 95% of the business. So that means 95% of the realtors you're going to talk to are starving. I mean, they're doing 2 deals a year if they're lucky. And that's just not the demographic. I mean, that's just not who you want to target. You want to go after the producers. You got to get information from the multiple listing service. You got to get information from your marketplace. Who are the producers once you've got the unique value propositions, and go after them solely. You expect some rejection. It's okay. You're not here to please everybody. You're going to run into realtors where their spouse is a loan officer, or their brother's a loan officer, or they've been with the same loan officer for 15 years, and they're just not going to switch no matter what. And that's okay. Just move to the next one. It's okay. You don't need to get everyone. The goal is you're never going to get everyone, and you should never have that as your expectation. Your goal is to get some. You just want to get some. I don't need to have every mortgage transaction in the state of California. I just need to get some. And apply the 80-20 rule, again, the 95-5 rule now. Learn how to become a presenter. There's if you go to Toastmasters or there's other avenues for you to learn how to get in front of a room. Going back to our mutual friend Rene Rodriguez, one of the most valuable things he ever taught me was understanding leverage and compression. Leverage is having the ability to influence people that you're in front of based on their perceptions. And so how do you become a very strong presenter in a room? How do you create leverage by being the person in the front of the room as the expert? And then instead of doing one-on-one presentations, you can do one-on-50 presentations, one-on-200 presentations. You know, I just did a workshop. I'm in Portland right now, and we just did a presentation in front of 30 realtors this morning. And, you know, it was a great room, had a lot of fun. But in a room full of 30 realtors, there's only 3, and I've been doing this long enough. I can read the body language. There's only 3 in the room that I would want to target based on how they were responding to the information, and that's okay. That's the math, right? If I'm in a room of 30 and I can get 3, that's a great way to spend a day. I just got 3 relationships. And then the last thing is script yourself. Like, write down what you're going to say so that you have a clear understanding of what you're going to say in what sequence. Then say it and test it, right? You gotta put it into motion. You got to get in front of realtors. Did it work? Did I get them? What was their body language as I was saying it? Where did I lose them? You know, what did they respond to in a positive way? You know, calibrate off of the information they're giving to you from a physiology standpoint, and then adjust based on the next one, right? So then you go to the next one and you test your script and you test your presentation and you calibrate so you become better. You've got to constantly improve. Just because it worked yesterday doesn't mean it's going to work today, and just because it worked today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. You know, you've got to constantly calibrate and adjust based on what's working and not working and who you're in front of. You know, just because something I say works in Southern California, you know, what if you're in Boise, Idaho? Doesn't mean it's going to work for you there. You know, so you've got to tweak it, but only to the point of where it works. It's not that creating value doesn't work. That definitely works. It's how you communicate it and whether the person's receiving it or not. And then if we go one more screen, Eric.
Yep.
So I'm going to use this as an example, right? So the 97% condo financing player, you know, getting in front of somebody who's already familiar with condos. So if you find somebody who says, oh, I'm the condo king of Santa Monica, or I'm the condo queen of Sherman Oaks, and, you know, I mean, that's a target demographic right there. I mean, they love condos. They already have it in part of their nickname. You know, so getting in front of them and helping them understand what it means to use this as a listing presentation, not a buy-side presentation, and helping them understand the guidelines and the ramifications of this strategy, and then holding them accountable to, you know, have you gone to condo buildings? Like, one of the things I've got an agent team working with me, and they're saying, Eric, we want you to coach us on this. I said, I'll coach you as long as you implement it. Oh, we're going to implement it. It's like, well, we're going to find out if you're implementing it because I'm going to call you. I want to know how many condo buildings you've been to this week. It's like, well, what do you mean? It's like, if you want my time, if you want me to spend time with you, coaching you how to go get this, then my expectation is you're going to go get it. So I need to hold you accountable to, are you doing what you say you're going to do? And if you're not, that's okay, but then I got to stop spending time. I got to move to an agent team that's really going to implement this. Right? It's like, well, we'll implement it. Well, okay, let's find out. You know, so it's okay to hold your team accountable. And if they resist that, if they say, no, who do you think you are? You can't hold me accountable. It's like, well, that's all you're telling me is you're not going to implement it. That's all you're telling me now. And if you're not going to implement it, that's okay. But then I can't spend time with you. I wish you the best. I hope your family does well, and I hope your business does well, and I just can't spend time on it. And so the value is so powerful. You've got to be selective on who you're leveraging it with, based on, are they really implementing what you're talking about? Because if they're not, you're not going to get any deals, right? And if you're not getting any deals, then, you know, you're missing it. The whole point of this is to create value, to get deals, to get prospects, to get mortgages. At the end of the day, if you want to go from 3 mortgages a month to 9 mortgages a month, or from 9 mortgages a month to 20 mortgages a month, or from 20 mortgages a month to 40 mortgages a month, if whatever stage you're at, wherever you want to go, you've got to get that new result, you've got to do what you've never done. because whatever you're doing right now is getting you the result you're currently getting. So you've got to get outside your comfort level and try new things. And for me, it's about accountability. I enjoy working with teams that are accountable, that hold me accountable, that hold my team accountable, but that I'm also able to hold them accountable. And that's, to me, how I find fun in it, is that we're all on the same page. You know, we're all striving towards, at the end of the day, creating value for the client. I mean, that's, at the end of the day, what we all need to be focused on.
Yeah, definitely. Well, guys, one other way you can leverage some of the stuff that, like Eric has shared with you, like one of the things that I'm having great success with and that our coaching members, my personal coaching clients are finding great success with is, you know, we're taking this concept of what we call home opportunity evaluations, which is just a simple reach out. Some people are calling it a home upgrade review. So instead of us making 20 or 30 or 50 phone calls a day to try and find 2 or 3 buyers who may want to upgrade their property, we can work with a team of 3 or 4 or 5 agents and teach those 5 agents how to do home upgrade reviews. Another way that you could help your agents with creating more listings is, you know, if they have a series of past customers, that, you know, if they're an experienced, have, you know, 20, 30, 40 families they've put in homes over the last 5 years, or if they wanted to go back to the 2002 to 2007 time frame when they were putting people into properties. You know, interest rates were in the 5.5% to 6% interest rate range at that time. Now that interest rates are in the 3.25% range and property values have come down significantly across most of the California market, what about the opportunity and the buying power of those homeowners to upgrade their property in the current market? How much more buying power does a family have when they can buy with, you know, 3.5% interest rates versus 5.5% or 6% interest rates? By the way, I did studies on this with one of my clients in New York. Some very similar market in Long Island, New York. And what we did is we actually flipped the numbers around. We played with the idea of, okay, we've got $2,500 a month in rent. That's the average kind of rental range of what most people are paying for rent in that market. So $2,500 a month in rent, what does that buy you at when interest rates are at 6% versus how much house does that buy you when interest rates are at 4%? We figured out that they have $106,000 more buying power for the same monthly principal and interest mortgage payment. So now you take that and turn that into a value proposition that you introduce to agents, and so you reach out to, like Eric said, you know, you get a group of agents together and say, hey, you know, let's just do a wide bar camp or a wide, let's just get a room of 20 or 30 top agents together and just brainstorm ideas how to combat some of the challenges that we're facing in real estate right now. And then you suggest to them the idea of, hey guys, you know, how many homeowners do you know that are locked into property and they're paying too much on their interest rate, but they don't think they can upgrade their property? Or how many of your agents would be comfortable reaching out to people and asking them who they know who's renting that really ought to maybe consider buying in the current market? And then we get the agents brainstorming. So out of a room with 30 agents, 3 of them actually say, you know, that's a really unique idea. I need to get busy and do something. And now you've got 3 agents who are making 3 to 5 phone calls a day, and they're generating 2 or 3 good new mortgage leads a week that all get fed back to you. So there's another way that you can create that kind of leverage with creative ideas and all these opportunities and cool tools and ideas and strategies for how to take this to a whole other level. Okay, we're getting a little short on time here as we're moving into the next step of the conversation, but I did want to ask one quick question. Eric, the Q&A, the chat has been all focused on how in the world did you do 110 loan applications in one night? Would you mind just quickly kind of sharing some of the details of how you did that? Because I actually think it's a really good example of how you really perfected a value proposition.
Well, no, I'm happy to. I mean, the first step is I had to create a consumer-friendly loan application. You know, the standard 1003 is just not functional for consumers. So I created something called the Mortgage Concierge loan application package. And if anybody ever wants to see it, if you go to statedincomesback.com, you can see one. Just click on Apply Now, and you can see a version of it. So first, I created a consumer-friendly loan application. Second is we created a seminar series that made a very powerful understanding for, and this was at the time, it was for real estate investors, as to why they should buy into new residential developments with builders that we had in the room, and like literally real estate investors would take down entire residential developments. So that was back in the 2006, 2007, days, and so obviously that methodology is not applicable anymore. I'm actually gearing up this year to try and beat that record with the short sale flyer, being able to take loan applications from people that are underwater. I'm working with 3 different agent teams in Southern California to create a seminar series for people that are underwater to come to a workshop to learn how to get out from being underwater without damaging their credit, without having to take your kids out of the school district, et cetera, et cetera. So using that same methodology, creating a seminar series and filling the room full of people that, would you like to get your balance sheet back to zero now instead of waiting? Would you like to get out from underwater? Here's some strategies. And it's not a matter of getting everybody in the room to say, yeah, I'm in. I just need some. So if I can put 400 or 500 homeowners that are underwater in a room, can I get more than 100 of them to say, yeah, I want to look into this. I'm interested, and have them fill out the application. And every single homeowner that would fill out one of those applications, that's a listing and a buy side prospect for the agents that are in the room. And if I can beat 110 in one night, and that's my goal in 2013, my goal is to set up that event more than one time to beat that record this year. And fingers crossed, knock on wood, that we'll be able to do it.
Well, if you guys, your audience, if you've learned anything about Eric through today's program, you probably have picked up on the fact that he's a pretty confident and pretty committed guy, and really the one most valuable thing I've recognized about you over the years, Eric, not only are you a brilliant strategist, but you're also a follow-through guy. You get stuff done. When you come up with an idea like that, you say you're going to do it, I can pretty well guarantee you will. For challenges. Well, guys, as we're getting close to the close here, there are still some opportunity to post questions in the Q&A. Feel free to go ahead and get those questions posted. I need to move on to a couple of key things that I want to alert you all to as far as some upcoming opportunities. As well, there's one last final piece that you want to stick around for till the very end of the call. But if you are interested in finding out more information about any of the tools or resources that Eric has mentioned, or if you'd like to get copies of finding out in more detail, and Eric, I think you graciously volunteered just before the call to spend a little time with anybody who would like more information about how to use some of the tools or resources that you have available, or how they could get access to them, that you'd be happy to spend that time with them. Guys, the website to go to, statedincomesback.com. I guess I'll throw in the email address. Well, Eric, is it okay? Well,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Well, Eric, what's the best email address for them to reach out to you if they want to connect?
Best email is emitchell@eric-mitchell.com. That's EMITCHELL @ERIC-MITCHELL.com.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, a couple of things, opportunities, events coming up. Through NAM, National Association of Mortgage Professionals, is now a title sponsor with the Ultimate Mortgage Expo that'll be in Atlantic City, New Jersey, in the early part of June. It's going to be June 9th through the 11th in Atlantic City at the Paradise Hotel and Casino. If you're interested in finding out more about that Ultimate Mortgage Expo, go to ultimatemortgageexpo.com. And by the way, through May 15th, there is a limited time on this, but through May 15th, any originator with an NMLS number can use this discount code, MADISC, all capital letters, and you'll be able to get free admission to the event. It's going to be a great program. We're going to be doing our 5-part maximum growth series, which is a drill-down process of what do you want to create in your life and how do you help it happen. Similar program to what we're going to be offering to the California Association of Mortgage Professionals at the August event that'll be coming up down the road. Additionally, there is an opportunity to participate in a similar program at the Mastermind 2013 program. We are going to be doing on Friday, the 7th of June, a similar program. If you're interested in attending that event or you want more information, go to our mxlcoach.com/events page, and you'll be able to find out more details on that. The last thing that I want you all to be aware of is you've invested time here to learn new concepts, new ideas about how to position yourself better in the market and how to become the only choice and make everybody else totally irrelevant. Now, what I want you to do is, ideas without action are totally useless. If you don't do something with the great information that you've heard in today's program, why did you even bother attending? I mean, really, seriously. So what I want you to do is before you do anything else, before you look at your next email, before you pick up your next voicemail message, take 3 to 5 minutes just to finish this exercise with me. First of all, decide the one thing that was most valuable that you heard in this program. Everything else, you'll have the recording, you'll have the PowerPoint. You can always come back and get this information later and get the additional steps. What was the one idea you want to implement first? Okay, decide what that is. Second step is decide what action you need to take to make that a part of your daily business. What do you need to do to start putting that idea in action? Step 3 is set a specific target for implementation. Just like you heard Eric talk about the coaching that he provides to the agents. He's going to set a deadline. He's going to ask them, by when do you want to have this done? When do you want me to follow up with you? Set a specific target for completion for yourself. And then the fourth key is who is going to hold you accountable. Decide who you're going to ask to hold you accountable. Now, by the way, a good accountability partner could be a colleague. It could be a realtor that you work with. It could be a boss. It could be a manager. It could be some friendly competition within your office, somebody that is kind of a running buddy for you. Decide somebody that you trust and respect enough that when you tell them you're going to do something, if you don't follow through, you're going to feel like a jerk. That accountability is usually the defining and critical piece that makes the difference between transformational growth or not. Now, if you don't have that kind of person in your life, if you don't have an accountability partner and you'd like to find out more about how the Maximum Acceleration team could be that resource for you, you're certainly welcome to get in touch with us. Go to the mxlcoach.com/strategy. On that website, you'll be able to take advantage of what we call our strategy session, which is a no-cost, no-obligation free coaching session focused on you and what you want to implement and execute. At the end of the conversation, if you want to talk a little bit more about once you've experienced it, which is the easiest way we've found to help you understand the true value of coaching, then we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like long-term and how to pursue it at a deeper level. So other than that, guys, take some action with what we've talked about today. Consider what it's going to do for you to be able to get to the next level, and then do something with it. By the way, just another brief preview. The Power Marketing 3 Key Strategies to Reach the Unreachable and Close More Loans is going to be the third part in this monthly webinar series that we started for NAM and the California Association of Mortgage Professionals. I'll be joined by special guest Adriel Esparza, who's a branch manager with PRMG, Primary Residential Mortgage Group from Corona, California. We're going to be talking a little bit more about how to cast a huge net, how to reach out to a wider scope. You can find more information on the camp website, or there is a registration site up now. The URL is not exactly that easy to get to, but if you'll just look at this tiny URL, tinyurl.com/camp-May 2013. That's where you can get registered for the next event coming up on Wednesday, May 15th at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Will be the next installment of this series. And then the last thing I want to do is thank you all and welcome you all for participating. By the way, this series is provided and sponsored by the California Association of Mortgage Professionals, NAM, the Association of Mortgage Professionals. And my encouragement to all of you is if you're not already a member, get involved. If you're not investing in your future, will you have one? It's a question I typically challenge people with. If you're interested in finding out more information about joining camp and upcoming events and activities, you can go to the camp website, www.ca-amp.org, and, of course, the NAM website, www.namb.org. For more information. If you're not in the state of California and you want to be able to get plugged into a great association who's fighting for your right to perfect your independence and protect your right to do what's right for the consumer and have choice in your lending environment. So with that, guys, I want to thank you all for attending. I want to applaud all of you for investing your time in perfecting or refining your craft, becoming a true professional, and taking your business to the next level. Hopefully today's program has shared with you some wonderful ideas that you're going to be able to take action with and turn into a lot more business for yourself and for your team. With that, Eric, I wanted to offer you just one last opportunity. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience with today's program?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to share and help anybody that wants to implement any of these strategies. Feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Okay, and one last time, would you mind giving them the email address, Eric, or the website?
Sure. The website is statedincomeiSback.com. Has my phone number and contact information on it, or you can email me directly at emitchell@eric-mitchell.com, EMITCHELL @ERIC-MITCHELL.com.
All right, great, folks. Well, we're going to be leaving the platform open for just a few more minutes here to give you one last chance to put in your request for a strategy session. By the way, those strategy sessions are filled on a first-come, first-served basis. There's only a handful available each week, so please do us the courtesy of giving us the best phone number and email address to contact you to get that appointment scheduled with one of our coaching team. Also, if you have any questions for me, the rest of the coaching team, or the associations, either that or Eric Mitchell directly, feel free to